a little bit of more Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few more, you're going to have a lot of Republicans running our way. Isn't she amazing? Oof. Ours, the reason she was very specific. I shouldn't digress probably, but I've read. She was very specific recently, saying that a poor mother who lost 2 kids to fentanyl, that I killed her sons. Well, the interesting thing is that fentanyl they took came during the last administration. And then there's Senator Rick Scott, the guy who's been saying for a year he wants to cut Social Security, Medicare, now says, never mind. That's what he's saying. And he says he actually agreed with us all along. He really didn't mean what he'd been saying. Well, like I said, I believe in conversion. Maybe they found religion. I sure hope so. But I'll believe it when I see it.
Oh, nothing, just Joe Biden handing Marjorie Taylor Greene an L in public. I've made this point before, and I'll make it again. There is a reason why I cover Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I think it's on full display right here. Because I know a lot of people say, don't give her the attention, that's exactly what she wants. Here's the thing. If Republicans decided to elevate an extremist like Marjorie Taylor Greene to the top of the Republican Party, then far be it from me to help them by hiding her. If they want her to be the face of the GOP, then I will make sure that everyone knows that she is the face of the GOP. I'll make sure everyone knows that when you cast a ballot for Republicans, you are helping embolden the woman who said that 9/11 was fake while QAnon was real. That wasn't my decision, it was theirs. And obviously Biden knows that too. Hell, he literally admitted the whole premise of it. The more that Marjorie Taylor Greene is out there, the more Republicans will come to the Democratic Party. He's obviously not adverse to that, and he's also obviously not going to go out of his way to sanitize that party for them either. Again, it wasn't Biden's decision to empower Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's not the one who forced her to become best buds with the new Republican Speaker of the House. He's not the one who gave her committee assignments. He's not the one who's deathly afraid of crossing her. That's the GOP. That's her own party. So if Biden's acknowledging objective reality, that's on the Republicans. And to be clear, if Joe Biden, who is deferential to the Republican Party, in my opinion, to a fault, if even he's willing to come out and highlight Greene's absurdity, then that should make it pretty clear that this woman is out of her mind. Biden goes out of his way to make sure that Republicans are brought into the fold, so the fact that he's out there laughing at her really does say something. And so in this instance, Greene had taken to Twitter writing, "Listen to this mother who lost 2 children to fentanyl poisoning tell the truth about both of her sons' murders because of the Biden administration's refusal to secure our border and stop the cartels from murdering everyday Americans by Chinese fentanyl." Only one problem here. The deaths that Greene is exploiting here for a political win against Joe Biden happened on July 29th, 2020. And Joe Biden wasn't president in 2020, Trump was. But now that we know just how disqualifying she believes the president's handling of the border was during that scenario, I'm sure she'll be just as hard on Trump as she was on Biden. Yep, any day now. I should note too that when Daniel Dale, fact checker for CNN, reached out to Marjorie Taylor Greene's office about this tweet blaming Biden for fentanyl deaths while Trump was president, Greene's spokesman responded by saying lots of people have died from drugs under Biden and said, quote, "Do you think they give a fuck about your bullshit fact checking?" Just in case you were wondering whether her staffers were any different than the person they work for, the answer is no. And while Biden took aim at Greene here, she wasn't the only target. He also brought up another Republican who's given the left no shortage of ammo against him.
And then there's Senator Rick Scott, the guy who's been saying for a year he wants to cut Social Security, Medicare, now says, never mind.
Rick Scott, who did his own party no favors by releasing a plan that would sunset all federal legislation after 5 years, which even the most naive person on earth understands would be a vehicle for Republicans to refuse to reauthorize earned benefits programs like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. And this wasn't just any errant Republican senator. Rick Scott was the Republican in charge of retaking the Senate. So when he releases a plan like that, it counts for something, which is probably why the rest of his party was so pissed off. It's not that they disagreed with him, it's that they didn't want Americans to know. If nothing else, it's become pretty clear that Republicans aren't exactly fans of transparency. And of course, some of them came out and clutched their pearls at the very notion that they ever wanted to cut your earned benefits. But then, don't forget that they're all literally on tape admitting it.
So that would potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
Let's talk about Medicare.
But Senator, hang on.
John.
So it's not a Democratic talking point. It's in the plan.
Entitlements ever be on your plate?
At some point they will be. That's actually the easiest of all things, if you look.
We should try to look at entitlements, look at restructuring Medicare.
What they need to be doing is looking at entitlements. Look at Social Security. Look at Medicaid. Look at Medicare.
Turning Medicare into a voucher system.
It's a really good start.
Our entitlement programs, there's no doubt that we have to wrestle this beast to the ground.
What's going on with the debt?
It's very disturbing, and it's driven by the three big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. Hopefully, at some point here, we'll get serious about this.
I'm here right now to tell you one thing that you probably haven't ever heard from a politician. It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it.
Tell me if you're willing to cut spending for Social Security.
I think everything has to be on the table.
So you are willing to cut money?
I think it's absolutely imperative.
What about Medicare?
I think it's absolutely imperative, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid.
Yeah, that pesky little strategy of literally just acknowledging what Republicans have been saying out loud for years. And by the way, just one more note on Rick Scott, since he apparently fashions himself some protector of earned benefits these days. Rick Scott himself personally oversaw the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history at the time when, as CEO of Columbia HCA Hospital, his company billed Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal programs for tests that were never ordered, attached false diagnosis codes to patient records to increase reimbursements to the hospitals, claimed non-reimbursable advertising costs as community education, and billed the government for home visits to patients that didn't qualify to receive them. The hospital company was fined a staggering $1.7 billion, which was, at that point, the largest healthcare fraud fine ever levied by the Department of Justice. And Rick Scott, trying to escape accountability because, of course, resigned as CEO fewer than 4 months after the investigation became public. So when he pretends to care about the integrity of these programs, just remember that he already undermined those programs once. He already stole money from Medicare and Medicaid, programs that service the elderly, the poor, the disabled, and the sick, so that he could line his pockets as the CEO. That's who Rick Scott is. He's not the guy who's going to protect your earned benefits. He's the guy who's going to sell you off to the highest bidder because he already has. And look, I know that it's easy to make fun of people like Rick Scott and Marjorie Taylor Greene because they offer a very, very target-rich environment. But the fact is that they're not some fringe members within the Republican Party. They represent that party exceedingly well. And at this point, it's the Mitt Romneys who are actually fringe in the GOP, not the Marjorie Taylor Greenes. So again, I know you're tired of hearing about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know that we all kind of get a little bit dumber every time we hear her speak, but that's the point. We didn't make the mistake of empowering Greene, they did. And if that's who they decided to elevate in whatever devil's bargain they struck, then I'm happy to make sure that everyone watching knows who she and her party really are. And from the looks of it, that is exactly what Joe Biden's planning on doing too. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can click the thumbnail right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work even further, the best way is to subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. There you can check out my interviews with major players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, Jamie Raskin, and so many more. Plus other interviews that live exclusively on the podcast. That link is also right here on this screen, or just search No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen wherever you listen to podcasts.